So here we are looking at the internal surface of the cranial cavity. The skull cap has been removed, and here you can see this is the anterior cranial fossa, this is the middle cranial fossa, and this is the posterior cranial fossa. In front you can see this is the crista galli, and on both sides the cribriform plate of the ethmoid bone. Now through this cribriform plate, the olfactory nerve fibers, they move from the superior surface of the nasal cavity into the cranial cavity and join the olfactory bulb. Here you can see this is the orbital plate of the frontal bone. Here you can see this is the lesser wing of the sphenoid. So together they are forming the roof of the orbit. Now here we have opened a part of the roof of the orbit by breaking the orbital plate of the frontal bone. Now moving behind, here we can see these are the optic canal. This structure in between, this is the optic chiasma. From the optic chiasma, you can see a pair of optic nerves arising and leaving the cranial cavity through this optic canal. Now, moving posteriorly, we can see this is the third cranial nerve or the oculomotor nerve. Now, this nerve, it is leaving the cranial cavity through the superior orbital fissure. Now, this region, this is the region of the pituitary or the hypophyseal fossa. If I reflect the optic chiasma, you can find the stalk or the infundibulum of the pituitary gland in the pituitary fossa. On both sides, these structures, you can see these are the internal carotid arteries. After arising here, they give the two branches, that is the anterior cerebral and the middle cerebral arteries. So here, this structure we have identified as the oculomotor nerve. This is the oculomotor nerve. So the third cranial nerve. Now students, the fourth cranial nerve is not visible because it is the only cranial nerve which arises from the dorsal aspect of the brainstem. As a result, this nerve, it has been removed along with the brainstem. Students, let's move to the next nerve, that is the fifth cranial nerve or the trigeminal nerve. So on this side, it is well preserved. Here this entire last thing is the trigeminal ganglion. It is situated lateral to the site of the cavernous sinus. On this region, on this side, we have removed the trigeminal nerve and you can see the cavernous sinus very well. However, here you can clearly see that is the trigeminal ganglion. From this ganglion arise the three different branches. These are the ophthalmic division, the maxillary division and the mandibular division. The ophthalmic division, as you can see, it is leaving through the superior orbital fissure. The maxillary division through the foramen rotundum and the mandibular division through the foramen ovale. Now behind this, laterally you can see this is the foramen spinosum. Alright. Now students, so that was the fifth cranial nerve or the trigeminal nerve. Now looking at the next cranial nerve, that is the sixth cranial nerve. So here you can see this is the abducent nerve or the sixth cranial nerve. So coming to this region, this is the petrous part of the temporal bone. In this petrous part, you can find the internal acoustic meatus. And here you can see this is the seventh and the eighth cranial nerves exiting through this. So the seventh cranial nerve, that is the facial nerve, and the vestibulocochlear nerve, they exit through this foramen. Now coming to the next foramen, this is the jugular foramen. Through this, the three cranial nerves, that is the 9th, 10th and the 11th, they will exit. So we have the glossopharyngeal, the vagus and the accessory nerve. And finally, the 12th cranial nerve, that is the hypoglossal nerve. This hypoglossal nerve, it is exiting through the hypoglossal canal. Now students, here you can see this is the foramen magnum. Through the foramen magnum, a pair of vertebral arteries moving up and joining to form this basilar artery. So these are the different cranial nerves from anterior to posterior. And here you can see the orbit has been opened and you can find the dura Within it, the periosteum of the orbit has also been opened, and within this you can see the eyeball, which will be dissected in further classes.